Josh Needle writes, "Hey guys, love the show. I had a question for you, John."
Oh, good.
Get ready. The other day on Movie Talk, and correct me if I'm wrong, you said that knowing the ending to a movie doesn't ruin the experience for you because for you it's all about the journey to get there. What's interesting is that you've said repeatedly how much you don't like prequels because if you already know where the story ends up, then there's not much of a point. It just doesn't make much sense to me. Could you please elaborate on this?
Sure, and I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this,
I
too.
want to hear your thoughts on this.
What Josh is talking about is the other day on AMC Movie Talk, I mentioned the fact that, spoilers don't really bother me. Because, if Titanic wasn't based on a true story, and they just made that movie, and someone told you, by the way, the boat sinks at the end, you'd be screaming bloody murder, spoiler, spoiler! But it doesn't really matter, because we knew it sunk, whatever. For me, knowing a lot of details about a film going into it doesn't affect me much because for me it's about the telling of the story. Now, obviously the end of Usual Suspects, the end of Sixth Sense, stuff like that, major twists, obviously I don't want to know those. But in generally speaking, I mean, I brought up this example, I said, look, there are a lot of people I get emailed on. I could say that, hey, I got inside information that there is a scene in the upcoming Thor: The Dark World where Thor and Loki have coffee in a Starbucks. I could say just that, and I would get 50 emails about people blasting me saying, you're ruining the movie for me. I don't think it's a big deal. Now, getting to the whole thing about prequels, while it is true that I have said that one of the reasons I don't really prefer prequels, there are some exceptions, is that we already know what happens. I mean, we know this guy doesn't live, we know this guy doesn't die, whatever. I mean, all other things being equal, I'd rather not already know, but it doesn't really bother me on the other hand. But the main reason I'm not a big fan of prequels, and this is just me, is that I like stories to go forward. I just like advancing. I like developing. I'm not a big fan of going backwards. Now, you can make the argument, well, what about Godfather 2? Godfather 2 was a sequel/prequel all at the same time, and it did it brilliantly and worked that story in together. But it did prequel elements to serve the story moving forward. That was what it was all about. I loved X-Men First Class, I really did, at least every scene that didn't have the annoying children in it. So, I mean, that's just me, though. I mean, that's why I primarily don't like prequels, is because I just like stories to move forward. But now that I got you guys here, Mark, let's start with you. What are your overall thoughts? First of all, do spoilers really bother you? And then secondly, how do you feel about prequels in general?
I would like to begin my answer by telling you what happened on Sons of Anarchy last night.
Well said. Well said.
Fuck off, Mike Trout. Thanks for having me, Tom.
Mark out.
I mean, again, I got to disagree with that. I think that the ending of a movie is something that I can still enjoy a movie going into it if I know what happens. And I was actually that unfortunate soul that had The Sixth Sense ruined for them before
that's
I saw it.
unfortunate, yeah.
And it's not as good of a movie. You can still appreciate what it is and what the director did. And when you talk about something where you know what happens, like Titanic or Apollo 13, it's a fine story, and it makes the director work a little bit harder to create that suspense of Apollo 13 when we all know what happens, but in that moment, in that theater, we don't know if these guys are going to survive or not. So, but I would not want to know anything. I like to know as little as possible going into a movie anyway. I don't like seeing the second trailer. I want to be teased. When I see The Dark Knight Rises, all I want to see is that scene of Gary Oldman in the hospital bed, and you got me. It's Batman's in it, you got my money, that's all I need.
I'm going to agree with Mark. Is the fact that I don't want to know anything about the ending. I want to look. There's some movies that are predictable, and the second the movie starts, like I know how this is going to end. Let me figure that on my own, And I just think that I understand your point, and like you said, the opinions they're subjective on films, and how you experience it is the same way. So, but for me, I want to kind of figure it out as I'm watching, and I want to know as little as possible. And I want the story to take me there, so when the end happens, whether or not I predict it or not, I'm experiencing it for the first time. In regards to prequels, I enjoy prequels depending on the story, depending on the movie. There are sometimes you're absolutely right that you don't need it. I got enough from the character that I don't need to see how he was born. I don't need to see Anakin as a kid. I'm good. Right. But there's other times that I would have liked to seen the actual progression of Darth Vader in a good way, but depending, and I loved X-Men First Class. It was one of my favorite movies that year, and I'm glad that we got to see the meeting of Magneto and Charles. So it just depends. It's circumstantial, I think, too.
Yeah.
It's more of a suspension of disbelief when you see prequel too, because sequels, that's how life works, is that we get older so we can age and then go into a sequel.
Yeah.
It's harder to look at, say, Magneto played by Sir Ian McKellen and then see him played by Michael Fassbender and be like, when did he get hair plugs? You know? But you can suspend disbelief if the story's good enough. So I think it's a lot like something based on a true story. If the director and the crew are willing to work hard enough to get us into this world again that we've already seen and know what it looks like, then I'm on board.
If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to AMC Movie News on YouTube. It's free and a great way to stay updated with all the latest movie news and check out our daily show, AMC Movie Talk. Also, don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter to stay in the loop for our special prizes, giveaways, and contests.